Hello, welcome to the first episode of whatever this is going to be. I haven't thought of a name for it yet. I'm glad I thought of doing this. I hope it helps people with autism, and I hope it allows people to have more of an understanding of me as a person alongside other autistic people. I want this to be sort of an autistic educational talk somehow on how we live our lives and what's going on in our heads, because it's probably quite hard for neurotypical people to empathise, as much as it is for us to empathise for them. I tend to sort of describe to it as being in a different, alien race. That's what I tend to feel like. I feel like I'm an alien and I've sort of been allowed into human society more than I'm sort of part of it, which is an interesting thing, and I'll probably make more of a topic on that later. Just giving myself a good idea there. But I want this to be a helpful sort of guide, a helpful look into autism as a thing, as a concept, and I want it just to be a lot of fun, really. There's probably going to be some topics down the road which aren't as good, aren't as fun and fun-loving. Like maybe meltdowns, maybe certain situations. But I feel like this is a thing that I needed to make. I can make sort of more fun videos in other places. I've got my Star Wars Let's Play Skyrim probably coming soon if I figure out how to record that nicely. I'm scared to because I feel like it's going to mess up. But that might just be part of my autistic worries, which is also another topic. There we go. I think that this is going to be a good platform to sort of speak out, because autistic people as a people don't get as much representation as people that did need the representation, of course. But I feel like people aren't talking enough about it in a way. And I want to sort of change that, if that makes any sense. So I've made this, and I hope people can enjoy it. I hope it's not too whingy, which is something I was worried about. I hope it's not like, oh, poor me, poor autistic boy, suffers from social situations. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and I will leave you with this first episode. Thank you very much. Now, I've never had trouble making friends. I like to think I have a good enough built-in personality not to annoy people into oblivion. Social situations for me, such as parties and even hanging out back in the old days, when you could see your friends, they always seem like a holiday to me. I can count all the times I've been out with friends and had social gathering on my fingers and toes. But to neurotypicals, it's probably a countless number. It can be a strong difficulty for people with ASD or autism, especially people being higher up on the spectrum than me, who struggle more with the social aspect of maintaining friendships and even normal conversation. What I think I've always struggled with was maintaining conversation, especially about things I didn't and don't really care about, or have considered actually caring about. I once got described in secondary school as only being able to do small talk. This never happened within my family, but when someone with autism, especially in my case, is put into a new situation, it can become very hard to be socially confident, but you're also dealing with a large change as well, so it's quite unnerving, really. I still find it quite hard to contribute to conversations where the topic is something I don't care about. This may come from a lack of empathy for someone's social situation or problem, which is something I could learn to do better. I've even started conversations I wish I didn't, not because I don't like the person or the people, but because sometimes I grow tired of the topic and get a little bored. Once I started talking to someone about the Grand Theft Auto games, and because it wasn't a game I cared too much about, it wasn't Skyrim for example, I sort of wished the conversation would end. When I got to the sixth form years, which was 27 until this year, I sat by myself quite a lot in the refectory, which is apparently a room used for communal means in an educational or religious place. I would watch videos on my phone, a lot usually, just because I quite enjoy the solitude, as many people with Asperger's tend to do. I had friends there. I value them as people. They have been nothing but kind to me. The problems I had was not only due to the fact most of them commune together in a large number, which generally freaks me out, but also the difference between me approaching them and them approaching me. Because I would sit alone a lot, often friends would think I was lonely and would either sit down next to me or at least say hi, which is the right thing to do, and I appreciate it entirely. I have to thank all of the people for their inclusion of me, especially since parts of sixth form were quite hard. The thing is, however, I did find it hard to socialise when put into a situation I didn't expect to be socialising in. My plan would have been to watch a show on my phone or revise for an A-level exam in media, my only one because I did 2 BTECs. But because the plan changed, it didn't process well in my brain, and because it was a change, it throws me off. I did, however, get the urge to approach them in their groups. Not all my friends were in the same social group of people, but I would interchange based on who was there. There were people I did feel the safest with socially, but I feel I became more of a burden to them, and was probably too dependent on them for people to socialise with. I think this is a trap people with autism can get into, so I recommend a little level of unfamiliarity. A friend I made from a drama club I used to be in would be an example of that, because although we had that one shared interest, I would say she's still a very different person to me. I can socialise well enough if I really put in the effort, but as an autistic person, I tend to enjoy activities a lot more with people than just blatantly conversing, which I recommend entirely. And I recommend doing activities instead of putting yourself in a harder social situation for anybody that struggles with a sort of social aspect of anything, because it just makes everything so much easier and more relaxed. I started going to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals back last year. This is a weekly tournament of up to 16 people, where you play Yu-Gi-Oh!, a card game based on strange creatures. This is the only way I can really go into to describe this without taking about 4 hours. It is very complicated, but I still recommend it. This is, of course, one of my special interests, and I'll get into special interests possibly in another episode. I find it easy to socialise there, not only because the whole time we are talking about a shared interest, but also because there isn't a pressure to formulate a lengthy conversation. We are playing a game, still being social, but also having fun together in a more relaxed setting. It seems less like a job interview, which is what I compare most social situations to be like. I also started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I know, what a nerd, but also, how dare you, the game is for everyone. There is a person who is also on the spectrum, and looking back on the script, I realised there was actually 2 people on the spectrum, so I'm sorry, the other one. I won't name your names, because I don't know if you don't want me to, so sorry about that. I don't know how they would be like in a normal social situation, since I haven't conversed with them outside the D&D Zoom call, and I won't speak for them, but I imagine their social skills, alongside mine, are enhanced by us performing an activity instead of just having a normal conversation. Masking is also a thing. This is something I do advise against. If you're getting your social skills from the experience of other people, especially from television or movies, your personality could change based on trying to fit into a certain mold of a person. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because you can make a lot of social mistakes trying to replicate neurotypical behaviour. On one hand though, it's very hard to, in a sense, act autistic around friends, because when you show a little more into who you are as a person on the spectrum, people may treat you differently. I hope this changes, because I want to encourage people to be more themselves. I don't blame people for treating people on the spectrum differently, because there is no rulebook on how to treat someone with autism. So it seems people mean well, and I do understand that. I think people with autism tend to get into a certain mindset, a very black and white one, as we usually do. So therefore, especially with experience, I've come to believe that it is an unfair comparison if you are autistic to compare your ability of having friendships with your ability to socialize. If I am to wrap this episode up, I would definitely say, because socializing is hard for autistic people, I know from experience, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. It's better to be able to experience what everyone else is able to experience than live life in the shadows and reinforce some other people's ideas that autistic people just want to be alone and want to be outcasts. It's of course easier said than done, but if I go from primarily only doing small talk to being able to make friends and even going to parties, it's not impossible for everyone else. Thank you for listening to this episode. I will bring out the next episode soon when I think of what else to write about. I'm glad I started doing this, really, because I didn't really have a place where I could talk about this. I mean, obviously, ironically, friends, but really, it's just sort of a better way of doing it here. I've written out everything, it's a better way of doing things, so I don't... I'm going off script now, because the script's over, but it's just a nicer way of doing things. And I'm also stalling for time because I want to get this up to 11 minutes. So that's also a thing. Goodbye, people. Hope you enjoyed the sped up Minecraft and the royalty-free music. bensound.com. Go use it. Use bensound.com.